Hey, how you doing? I'm doing well, thank you. Woohoo! I think it's time to start, though. Is everybody ready to start? Okay. Welcome to City Council. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For those in the audience in the back of the room, there is agendas. If you'd like to follow along, there's also a sign-in sheet. Feel free to sign in. At this time, I would like to call the meeting to order at 7:01. Okay. Roll call. Mayor Sulek,
Yes.
Delorco,
Yes.
Gearbaugh,
Yes.
Rice,
Yes.
Dillon, and Marl and CO are absent. From staff, we have City Manager O'Toole, Clerk Royal, Wastewater Treatment Superintendent Briggs, Treasurer Cole, City Engineer Humphreys, Assistant City Manager Getchman, Director Scruggs. I think that is it from staff for tonight. With that, I would like to move for approval of the agenda.
So moved as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we'll move to excuse the absences of Mayor Marl and Councilmember CO.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we'll move into public comment on agenda items. Under the Open Meetings Act, any person may come forward at this time and make comment or question an item that appears on the agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested, but not required, to state their name and address for the record. Are there any public comments?
Yep.
Can you make sure that the green light
Yeah,
is
it's
on?
on.
Perfect.
I live on Maple Oaks Court, and I want to make a comment that I want a traffic light on crosswalk to make sure the cars are stopped for me. Because they didn't, the last time when I was not doing, when me and Dad were crossing, it was, the cars did not stop for us last time. So I want to stop, I want them to stop so that way I can cross and get to my condo. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach.
Yep.
Any other public comments?
Yep.
I just wanted to clarify, Mike Castor, Zach's father. Just wanted to clarify, because we've only been there about a month, but we were coming back from the library. He was coming back from Liberty Club, and we were walking on that side of the road, and somebody had stopped short, so they finally saw us at the end stop, but the guy behind him didn't. So brakes on, squealing, and he turned into us. And thankfully, Zach was on the right of me, and the cars were coming this way, so he was far enough. But I actually was backing up because it was within like 2 feet of me. So that kind of shocked us. But we knew through Patty Raby and others that they were talking about having some type of light, some type of a way to flash to let people know. Because I think people just don't know to stop there. I really do. I think if they saw the lights, they saw some notice, they'd be more inclined to stop. And I wanted to ask, is there a city ordinance or something along stopping for people in marked crosswalks? I know I see them in Ann Arbor. I don't know if we have anything locally or anything that, would say that, hey, if you see someone in these crosswalks, you need to be prepared to stop. Is there anything like that at all?
We can follow up.
We can definitely follow up on it. We just generally don't do back and forth
Okay,
during
sorry,
meetings.
that's fine,
No,
that's
but
fine,
that's
okay.
okay. We can definitely address it. We can reach out to you through email, and we can address it at our next
No worries.
meeting.
I think that was all I need to say, but thank you for hearing us. and
Thank
good
you
job.
very much.
Thank you.
Good job.
Hey,
Any others for public comment?
Good evening. My name's Pat Raby, and I live at 650 Maple Oaks Court. And this is my son, Bill Raby, and he lives at 621 Maple Oaks Court. And I know that I've spoke to the city council before about the crosswalk issue, and that there's going to be road construction, and I know there's a lot going on there. But I just wanted to reiterate that I do think it needs to be beefed up a little bit. You know, many of the crosswalks have just those solar-powered flashing lights. And I wonder in the short term, at least, if that would alert people a little better to stop a little quicker. I mean, I cross there frequently, and people really just don't pay attention to it at all. And with the sidewalk coming in and along Maple Road from Clark to Maple Oaks, I think the traffic along that side of the road will increase. And we still have, you know, we may have school kids crossing that are forced to walk to school. And I just wanted to draw your attention to it again. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. You can pull it down.
My name is Ruth Janes, and I live at 656 Maple Oaks Court, and I also am in favor of a crosswalk that's very safe. I'd actually, in addition to a crosswalk, I'd like a stoplight, because the traffic gets so crowded there when school's in session. So anyway, yeah, and I have a tricycle, but I haven't been out yet, but I will, tricycle over to the senior center or the library, and I'm slow, and so I want people to stop. So that's it. I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. James. Any others for public comment? Clerk Roll, did we receive any written comments? And we'll move on to the consent agenda. The following consent agenda will normally be adopted without discussion. However, at the request of any citizen or council member, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for council discussion. Is there a motion to approve as amended or submitted?
Move as submitted.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. On to new business. Item 23-127, it's 2023 Personnel Policy Manual updates. This is a motion to acknowledge the memo from Assistant City Manager Getchman and to approve or not approve the 2023 Personnel Policy Manual changes as provided.
Move to acknowledge.
Second.
To acknowledge, all in favor?
Aye.
Wait a minute, we should have discussion.
Oh, yes, sorry. So acknowledge only. Ms. Getchman?
So these are just the annual personnel policy updates. We did this last year, so there aren't very many, and they're mostly just kind of nothing super substantive in terms of changes. I know there was some issue with the red lines, so has everyone seen a red line copy at this point?
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
We're getting some feedback. Hang on one second. Are there questions from the dais?
I have.
Mr. Gearbaugh?
Regarding, well, the first couple of them, the ones, the nepotism one, how does that address overall nepotism for all staff?
Well, in terms of, I mean, it's mostly just, so if someone is in a like temporary type position, right, it's not going to impact that. So, I mean, we made the change really just for that purpose.
And it seems like that policy covered more elected officials and their potential situations, but with
Yeah.
staff, where is the full definition of what we consider nepotism related to staff? Did I miss it in here? Because I just see it in the one section.
Well, I don't know that we do have,
Well, technically, that section 3.08 deals with elected and appointed officials. So that
it wouldn't, it doesn't cover individual staff, but basically department heads are all appointed officials of the city.
Okay.
The idea behind it is no one should be a direct supervisor over a relative.
Right, and I knew that. One of my questions is that I know we have other nepotism hires that, well, we have hires that are potentially related to other employees, and how is that disclosed or managed in our policy, I guess? Or are we only concerned about how they're, say?
Right now, right now the policy's seemingly agnostic on that. We only deal policy-wise with direct supervision, issues of direct supervision.
Okay, that answered. I may want to address that in the future, so at this point, I see why this is addressing that concern. I know Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Dillon had disclosed the issue related to her situation. So the other one, when we talk about the elimination of severance pay upon discharge and really reducing that down to case by case, how would we address, or do we have a policy to address when we actually do have layoffs? Or would that be a case-by-case situation?
That would be a case-by-case situation, and really that comes at the direction of our legal counsel, who indicated we shouldn't try to apply a hard and fast rule. We don't know what our circumstances would be if and when a situation like that arose. There may be opportunities that are more suitable, or payment packages that are more suitable than just a hard and fast severance calculation.
And then those recommendations, would they be subject to approval by council? Or?
Yes, yeah, well, certainly they would exceed any threshold for the manager's office and require a disbursement.
And that includes our new $25,000 proposal that we're talking about?
Yes.
Any other questions? We currently have a motion on the floor to acknowledge. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Now we're looking for a motion to approve or not approve.
So move to approve?
I'll second that.
Motion is moved by Gearboss, seconded by Kamara Sulak. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is 23-128, Dam Feasibility Study. This is a motion to acknowledge receipt of the memo from City Engineer Humphreys and to approve or not approve a contract for the dam feasibility study with Spicer Group, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $240,000.
Move to acknowledge and to approve.
Moved by Gearboss to acknowledge and approve.
Second.
Second by Rice. Any discussion?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions.
Yeah.
Of course I do. Appreciate this. We know this is moving forward with a significant amount of money to help us determine what we will do for the future of the dam. As I was looking at the suggestions and things in that are going to be covered, it talks about environmental, but is it sampling based on just determining what the materials are, or is there actual testing going to in case of contamination or those type of things?
It's both. We want to do an estimate of the quantity of sediment that needs to be removed. We're not sure how deep it is. My understanding is in general you can walk from one side of Mill Pond to another, but how much sediment has accumulated in the pond in the years that it's been impounded. So that's one aspect of the material. Another aspect is to do actual testing on the material in the existing impoundment of the river. So overall, the schedule is over the next year is doing all 12. I think there were 12 steps outlined in the proposal and the ultimate grant application that we'll go through, and the materials is a big part of the cost and a big part of the analysis.
And then based on that, it said something about potentially they're only going to do 10 samplings, but there will be more in the event of what they discover, or do you request it?
Yes, I think that's the intent, is to, and I think some of these questions will be better answered when we get further into this study. So right now, what we've done first, we're really proud that we were able to receive this grant. The grant is it's called the Dam Safety Unit. It was called the Risk Reduction Grant, something along risk reduction. And Eagle, my understanding is a lot of municipalities applied, and Eagle's scoring was very favorable for us because of feasibility to remove the dam is the ultimate removal of the risk. So most of the other money, it's my understanding, went to actual projects, like they're going construction on the ground projects. This is one of the few feasibility studies they approved, but they're very excited about the potential of it, which is why we're happy to get the money. So but we're at the very beginning of the project, and so we have all of these steps to go, and I envision that we'll have a lot more information in a year's time. We'll be back with a lot of public engagement and all of this information that we found, and we'll be able to answer a lot more of these questions about what the park's going to look like if this were to go forward, what is the cost of this, how much, like I said, the material is a huge part of the cost estimates, so the material you're zoning in on one of the most important things we have to do yet with estimating the potential to remove the dam.
Yeah, I was just wanting to make sure that the environmental aspect of it was happening. Over the year, it's going to have all those kind of ideas and things in there. Also, when you look at it, do you anticipate that this is going to be the full cost of it, is the 240, or is there, it seems like that was a large dollar amount, which, is that the estimate, or is it?
That is the estimate for this, for those 12 steps of that scope of work. So there are a few subs associated with that. So Spicer themselves, and I could dig into the actual proposal amounts and look, they've listed some of their subs on here. So that is the estimate for this feasibility study to get us all the way through to that public engagement phase.
And then Spicer was recommended to us because we've worked with them before, or?
Yes, and Spicer's, I'm not sure how many years ago, I'm relatively new, but when I started, they were doing the dam. We have to do, every 3 years, we have to do an inspection of the capacity of the dam. And historically, Spicer's come on in the recent past, let's say the 2 or 3, they've done the last couple inspections. So in the last 10 years, they've come on board. They've done a great job. They were super helpful with the grant application on this. And they definitely got my attention and got us to be able to submit all of the grant, because the grant application was a big lift. And they did all of that, ahead of the game, absolutely. So they are set up and ready to do this project for us. They are also working on the Mill Pond Path project, which ties nicely with this, especially with the renderings of what the project, the path could, or the park could look like post dam and with the new pathway. So that's also provides a nice overlap for this area of the city.
And this will just only be the dam, nothing related to US 12 or its impact in that whole area? Should that be redesigned at some point?
Yeah, the US 12 is, if anything, the crossing of US 12 is kind of tied with the river walk. I envision that there's a possibility with the dam removal that the existing bridge structure could be used for a tunnel underneath US 12.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
I just wanted to thank the city staff and Spicer for helping us apply to Eagle for these funds. This was a significant dollar amount, $250,000, and on the face value to the public, it looks like we're spending an awful lot of money just to hire consultants to tell us what the best way forward is. In reality, Eagle are subsidizing 80% of this cost, so I want to make sure the public understands that.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to end, I've got a couple quick questions also. And this may be for the city manager, this project will deal specifically in looking at removal of the dam. Can you talk to the fact that there is still on the table the rehabilitation of the dam?
Yes, so if you recall, about 18 months to 2 years ago, we did complete a study that looked at what the costs would be to maintain and subsequently restore or retain the dam at a level that is compliant with what we expect Eagle's requirements to be in the future. So the thresholds that we expect them to change to moving forward. This is the other side of that coin. So doing a comprehensive deep dive on what it would take to remove the dam, the feasibility of that, what it would look like, and as we've discussed, take next steps from there. But certainly, by entering into this study, we haven't committed to one specific outcome yet. This just gives us the information that we need to make a really educated decision, and subsequently, part of this is that public engagement piece.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. And it's stated in here that it's going to take about a year to complete this study. And so then are we looking at, in about a year, then sort of starting to contemplate a path forward? Is that sort of the time frame that sort of everything is sort of on hold at that point?
I am, like in my long-term planning for capital, I see the dam as a 5-year, we're at least 5 years out. We're going to get new regulations in 2026. So we're luckily, we're doing an inspection this year, and new regulations are going to go into effect this year. So we're kind of getting a 3-year pass, if you will. The existing structure, although old, it's really only showing signs of failure because it's old. It was built in the 1800s. I think sometime in the next 25 years, that structure is going to start to fail. We know we have to invest either in the structure. We know we're getting increased regulations that are going to force investment and increase spillways. So in the next 5 years, we're going to be looking at millions of dollars of investment in this dam. And so the idea is that hopefully this feasibility study lines up this third option now, and we can evaluate all three and see what is the best way to spend our money going forward, looking at long-term O&M capital costs for all of the projects.
Thank you. I really appreciate that time frame. I know that there are a lot of residents that live along the water that are concerned that there's going to be quick decisions made. And so just so that they're able to understand the time frame, I appreciate that.
Yeah, this is definitely a slower moving project.
Yes. Any other questions? So moving on, the motion was moved by Gearbaugh, seconded by Rice to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the next item under new business, 23-129, wastewater treatment plant, digester debris disposal. This is a motion to approve or not approve a contract with Midwest Power to supply an excavator and operator to facilitate removal of the digester debris. To approve or not approve a contract with HM Environmental I assume this is supposed to be in an amount not to exceed $100,000 for the hauling and landfill of the digester debris. And lastly, to authorize or not authorize the city treasurer to amend line item 590-536-807-076.
Okay. I'll move to approve, and authorize.
Thank you, Mr. Gearbaugh. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Delorco. Mr. Briggs?
So just to clarify, this is the two parts of, there's two different contracts, but the total is going to be not to exceed $100,000. And that is actually, we've inflated that a little bit because we know things can go wrong. If I calculated it properly, it's going to be more in the neighborhood of $85,000. But just in case, so we don't have to come back to you guys, I figure let's go for $100,000. If we come out less than that, we're doing really good. But yeah, the idea is that for HM Environmental is going to handle the hauling and disposal, and the contract with Midwest is to actually scoop the debris out of our trickling filter where we've been holding it for the last several months, getting it to dry out, and that's worked real well for us. It's very dry right now, so we should be able to load it into dumpsters and dispose of it very easily.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Briggs? Mr. Delorco?
Are we effectively killing two birds with one stone by excavating out the trickle filters to pave the way for the wastewater treatment plant rehabilitation project?
Well, sort of, but to have emptied the trickling filter so that we had a place to put this, we just kind of dug the stones out of them and piled it up. So there's a lot of stones to get rid of still.
Okay.
So those are not going to be necessarily.
They're just picking up the debris.
Yeah.
They're not completely
Right.
unearthing the trickle filter bed.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Other questions? Mr. Gearbaugh?
So they're removing all those stones, or just the ones that were?
No.
Just the one in the one pit?
The one pit, we might have to take some of those stones out that were left in the bottom if they're contaminated, but mostly it's just going to be the debris itself that we put in there to dewater that we're disposing of.
I didn't realize there was that much in there.
Oh, there's a bunch. We
Think
figured
about how
about
big the
100,
digester is.
if we calculate it right, we figured 1,000 cubic yards.
Whoa.
So, and that might be overkill. I mean, we're kind of guessing about the depth across this thing that slopes, so, but that's kind of the crux of it.
Do we anticipate any odor issues when that's happening?
I don't believe so because it's so dry. There
Dewater.
should not be any.
Okay, even
Really?
after this rain, the last couple of days?
Oh, no. Most of the rain, when it hits this, it's like dirt. It rolls off the top. Might soak in just a little bit to moisten it, but what we've seen in the past months with rain, we've got a low spot that the rain runs down into and we pump it out. So.
Other questions? Seeing none, let's Go ahead and vote. We have a motion on the floor, moved by Gearboss, seconded by Del Orco, to approve, and authorize. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to the next item. Item 23-130, notice of award for the wastewater treatment plant transformer. This is a motion to acknowledge receipt of the memo from consultant engineer Rubel and to award or not award the bid for the wastewater treatment plant transformer to Service Electric Supply, Inc. in the amount of $79,790.
Move to acknowledge and award.
Second.
Okay, so
Mr. Briggs.
as we know, this is a transformer for the new wastewater treatment plant that we're trying to pull ahead because there's such a delay in ordering them. So we've sent bids out, got numbers back, and this was pretty much, was there only pretty much one transformer, or were there?
Just one.
Just one that actually gave us a bid?
Oh, no, there are four.
Four? Okay, four that gave us bids. And if you want to address, you have those numbers probably better than I do.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Rubel.
There's a tabulation of the bids that came back. Three of them were new, one was refurbished. The low bidder, I felt good about because they're represented by a firm pretty close to Saline. So always nicer to have a sales representative nearby that can help us expedite delivery if we have any problems, rather than call South Dakota and try to find somebody there. So good references from that company. Service Electric Supply is a distributor for a national transformer manufacturer named Maddox. We're familiar with Maddox as a manufacturer. We've used them on other projects. Has always gone quite well. So a low bidder seems to be a good combination of a new device, local representative, the low fee, and a manufacturer that we're comfortable with. So with that, I'll field any questions you have.
Any questions for Mr. Briggs or Mr. Rubel? Mr. Gearboss.
Just one question. When I read the contract, it said something about they have the ability to increase the price on materials every quarter. What's your anticipation of doing that?
Oh, yeah,
Of that potentially happening?
I don't think that'll be a problem. I mean, we've been acting pretty quickly here to get the order in and lock in material price issues. That was a big challenge, as I indicated in my letter. The suppliers would not sign the city's contract. Their business is just providing quotes and executing purchase orders. So literally, I called everyone and said, would you sign a contract? And every one of those four said no. So they proposed the terms and conditions, and for the most part, they looked satisfactory. But you call one item that would be concerning. I don't know the future, but I doubt that will be.
And is that the reason why they wouldn't sign a contract? I know it takes a year lead time, or what it seemed like, but what's the reason for not signing a contract?
The reason for not signing the contract primarily had to do with bonds. They didn't provide bond. They don't want to provide bonds. And the liquidated damages portion, we wanted to tie them into a schedule contractually with some sort of a compensation if they were late. And none of the four would do that. Now, on the other hand, they're quoting a time frame that should give us many, many months of slack if something happens. So I'd love to have a contract, but I think there's enough float here.
Is this kind of odd now, or is this standard business now that they're not willing to sign contracts?
No, it seems to be due to the nature of the equipment. Equipment supplier just works on a purchase order basis, not a full service contract with liquidated damages and training and those sorts of things. It does appear to be, we're asking a vendor to do something that is out of their typical approach.
So is this manufactured to our standards, or is it a off-the-shelf type of situation?
There is a specification that they bid to. It does look like it is consistent. Their quote is consistent with that specification.
And knowing that, we haven't completely finished designing or whatever with the plan and just having gotten the bids and everything in, there's no potential change or anything that would affect the need for the specification that's currently being proposed?
That's a very good question. No, there should not be. This is sized, and then there is a factor of safety beyond that in this equipment. So it will even accommodate a modest amount of new equipment past this project.
And it said something about invoicing on it. Do we, they won't deliver without paying it ahead of time. So what point in time do we pay for this?
They will pay, I had a long conversation about that. They will, the terms will be net 30. The city will owe payment within 30 days of taking delivery.
Any other questions, Ms. Rice?
Is there any need for us to approve an amount higher than this, just in case? Because if they raise the price, we're going to be at our threshold that we'll need to.
Per the city's purchasing policy, if something is within 10% or, well, if we update tonight, $25,000, then I can approve that, whichever is lesser.
Administratively without council.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
That's perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Marisula?
Yes, thank you. So we're anticipating delivery the first or second quarter of '24?
That is correct.
Okay. And what kind of a warranty is there on this transformer?
I thought that was noted.
3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, thank you.
And how old is the one that we're using now, dare I ask?
Oh, it's 30, probably 36 years would be my
36
guess.
years? Okay,
That's the end of its
okay.
useful life,
So
usually.
this one should last
Oh, 20 plus,
20,
easy.
30 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, very good. And considering that the company is nearby, you feel more comfortable that they are not going to raise the price exorbitantly?
They want to keep local clients happy, I will say that. I did check some of their references, and they were very good, so.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor moved by Del Orco, seconded by Gearbaugh to acknowledge and award. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 23-132, revisions to ordinance 695, an ordinance to amend Division 9 purchasing. This is a motion to acknowledge receipt of the memo from Treasurer Cole to amend Ordinance 695 to increase the purchasing authority of the city manager from $15,000 to $25,000, and to approve and adopt or not adopt as submitted.
Motion to acknowledge, approve, and adopt?
Moved by Camara Sulak. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I sat down and discussed this with both the city manager and Treasurer Cole, and this is really reflecting the fact that we haven't updated this in how many years?
Almost,
15?
just 18 years.
18 years? So based on just inflation alone, it would be approximately $23,500, so we kind of rolled it up to this. And then it also gives the authority for a number of these things. My only one recommendation or suggestion to Treasurer Cole would be is that as we look at some of these things and talking about purchase levels and things, perhaps a report being submitted to council quarterly that says what's being paid or approved by the city manager as part of our audit process would be helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? We have a motion on the floor moved by Camara Sulak, seconded by Del Orco to acknowledge, approve, and adopt. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Our last action item is action number 23-133, Finance Policy Updates. This is to acknowledge receipt of the memo from Treasurer Cole and to adopt or not adopt the revised finance policy updates and Resolution 2023-133.
I'll move to acknowledge.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Could we have Treasurer Cole just kind of give an overview of what she's proposing?
Certainly. Regularly, we check these policies, review them. Thank you very much. Regularly, we review these policies, and we try to make sure that they're best in class. And the changes that we're suggesting this evening certainly are stemming from advancements in the last 20 years of internal controls, evolving security threats that we're facing, technological advancements, and new regulatory compliant measures. So the policies before you for your consideration are to ensure that our transactions are secure, that we protect sensitive data, with the overall goal of improving efficiency while we're at it, and to have the best process in place that we can for the city. Just so that you're aware, we did modify the purchasing agreement to include the NDO language, and we're also made some clarifications on the purchasing limits. So the biggest changes here are anything less than $1,000, supervisors are able to approve. Anything less than $3,000, a department head will be able to approve. That was previously $1,000. And the city manager will now be able to approve everything up to $25,000, which previously was $15,000. Anything over $25,000 will be at the sole approval and discretion of City Council. So with those changes in mind, I'm open to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions from the dais?
I was just curious about how it provides additional layer of protection in terms of checks and balances for fraudulent claims.
So we have, just so you're aware, we do have insurance fraud on fraudulent transactions, but the additional measures that we've taken is we've added in a 3-layer of approval for any changes for ACH-type transactions. So instead of it coming to one point in the city and being approved by another, now we have it going through the treasurer's office and the city manager's office.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Other questions, Mr. Gearba?
The only one thing that I'd noticed, and maybe I didn't catch it, we had a discussion about how to address the discrimination clauses in here, and I'd like to have wherever that is in the policy, simply refer to our ordinance, NDO ordinance, because currently some of the language in there doesn't include the additional civil rights activity that's been added by the state of Michigan.
Certainly, thank you. I'll make sure that's updated.
My other thing, I was just going to, we sat down and also talked about this. A number of these items are just simply best standard practices. I know Treasurer Cole and City Manager reviewed these things with Plant Moran, and her experience has adjusted a lot of these, and I appreciated having a chance to talk about some of these. And I think this is just a good way of getting things put in place. We'll see how it happens and how it works with the additional increases in responsibility, which that's kind of what you want to do to empower employees to be able to do what they're doing and be responsible for what they're purchasing. So thank you again for bringing this about.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions, Mr. Claire-Sula?
Yeah, I have a comment. I want to thank you for all your work on this. This is a proactive measure, and it's really important for us to do, to make these updates and changes. And it's nice to see proactive changes and bringing us up to best practices and being current. So I'd like the public to realize that we are making proactive changes. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. We have a motion on the floor that is to acknowledge only, moved by Gearba, seconded by Kamara-Sulak. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Now we're looking for a motion to adopt or not adopt.
I'll move to adopt with the one condition of changing the discrimination clauses to reference our current NDO policy or the code as such.
Okay.
I'll second.
That makes sense.
Any further discussion? For a vote? Moved by Gearba, seconded by Kamara-Sulak to adopt. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on from the big stack to the discussion part of our agenda. This is on reports and other announcements. Our first item, we'll start with the Maple Road Crosswalk. if there's a comment made by city manager.
Yeah, I'm just happy to share for the residents that were here tonight for that item. We do still have projects, alternatives currently being considered by our traffic engineers. Obviously, our first order of business is working through the actual construction project that residents will see on Maple Avenue. We'll be crossing US 12 the early part of July. There'll be pretty significant disruption to that area through from US 12 through the library. But as we wrap up that project later this year, again, we have alternatives in place that we're considering and some outside partners that we will need to continue discussions with to determine what the final outcome will be. But I do anticipate that we'll be able to share some information about what enhancements are the best fit for that location and where that crosswalk makes the most sense in the future.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to move on to committee and commission reports. We're doing something a little bit different, just so the public understands, because it's not listed here. We're going to be doing a written format of that, but at this time, if there are any significant things that need to be reported out from commissions or committees, any upcoming events to let the public know about, this would be the time. We've also added to our agenda a list of upcoming board, committee, and commission meetings, so that people can see it sort of quickly at a glance, with the caveat that please check the city's website before attending those meetings to make sure that that meeting is actually still happening. Sometimes there is no quorum or there is no agenda, and so a meeting will be postponed. So with that, we'll go down the dais and see if there's any reports. Ms. Rice?
Just two quick reports, one from Parks. Green Thumb nominations are still open. Will be open until September. We've got, I believe, 12 submissions so far. So look around your neighborhoods, see who's beautifying Saline, and you can fill out a nomination online. Secondly, the Historic District Commission is desperate for volunteers to sit on the commission. We are having a hard time getting a quorum during the summer project season, which is not a good time to not have a quorum, so that we can help folks in our community be able to get their projects completed. So if you have any interest in that, you can fill out an application on the city website, or you can reach out to anyone on city council or to the mayor, and we can help you with the application process. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Del Orca?
Code Review Committee was canceled this month, so nothing to report there. Environmental Commission wrapped up its work on its annual report. PowerPoint will be sent to Terry Royal, Clerk's office shortly here, and that'll be on the agenda for the July 10th meeting as a presentation. With regard to community events, we're encountering a little bit of resistance from the Celtic Festival to comply with and adhere to our recently approved vendor guidelines with respect to recycling at city events. They're maintaining they're no longer under the jurisdiction or oversight control of the city and are refusing to put in any additional efforts in place for recycling, which is very unfortunate because Summerfest, Oktoberfest have all willingly complied. So we'll have to have a substantive discussion around what that means for the Celtic Festival moving forward.
Thank you. Mr. Girwa?
This past week or so, Charter Review continued to proceed with looking at our existing charting and noticing a number of things that hopefully we can adjust through some amendments. Risk management meant there were a couple risks that we reviewed and addressed in terms of moving up into another category as a result of recent activities and things that have happened. And then this week, the NDO Review Board will be meeting to further consider changes. And we've looked at basically Chelsea and a couple other communities so far to determine what they're doing, and we're making a few recommendations, basically on procedural, potentially a review group that would be doing the complaints should we receive them, instead of basically putting the burden all on the city manager and allowing for a better approach. And that's it for me right now.
Thank you. Mr. Marisula?
Yes, Saturday we had our third annual Pride Picnic, very successful, very well attended by community members, council, and staff. Thank you for everybody that came. There was a lot of activities for children, and we were happy to have some prizes. And I want to give a thank you to local businesses, namely McPherson Local, Hungry Howie's, and Zingerman's for their donations for food and prizes. Our Congresswoman Debbie Dingell came and enjoyed the festivities, as well as Shannon Beeman. So we really had a good time. We had good weather, and the pavilion was packed for the whole time. So really great to see that. And then moving on to the arts and culture, we have an event coming up in July 22nd. It's going to be the inaugural Jazz in the Park, Jazz in Mill Pond Park, July 22nd from 4 to 8. It's a Saturday. There will be, I believe, 4 different jazz bands that are that play at big venues and have are recording artists, if you will. There will be food trucks, and it's lining up to be a really good activity. So stay tuned. Mark that time off, July 22nd, 4 to 8. Thank you.
Okay, and I just have 2 quick announcements. One, just to echo what Councilmember Rice had mentioned, which is that several of our committees and boards are in need of participants. Good government works better when good people get involved, so please consider joining any of our boards, commissions, or committees. There is a list available on the city's website. If you don't have access to that, feel free to contact City Hall or reach out to any of the council members, and we will put you in touch with the boards for which you have an interest. So thank you about that. And the other announcement I wanted to make was that there's a lot of chatter on social media, questions about 4th of July fireworks. The city of Saline is not doing 4th of July fireworks this year. Some of our neighboring communities are doing them, so we encourage you to go visit them. And it is something that we will look at in the future, but at this time it is not happening here in the city. And with that, we will, go ahead.
Well, I forgot to tag in on your not having fireworks, but the Historical Society is having an Independence Day event this Saturday, July 1st from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Basically kind of just a gather. We're going to have the velocipede out, a few things for children to look at, and just kind of have an in-town celebration, maybe some ice cream and stuff like that. So stop by, just visit your neighbors and enjoy the 4th and celebrate our independence.
And that's at the depot?
At the depot.
Fantastic, thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem Dillon?
Yes.
I'm sorry, are we doing committees and discussion at the same time? Because I have 2 more items that we're just.
Sure, we can go right back through that.
Sorry.
We got lots of time.
So a couple of community members have reached out to me on 2 separate topics, and we've discussed with the city manager. One is please have your dogs leashed if they are not in the fencing area of the dog parks. We're having some problems with dogs in the baseball diamonds and then in the open area of Mill Pond Park. So it is a city ordinance. Please make sure that your dogs are on leash at all times. Secondly, if you have solicitors in your neighborhood, please get their business information and feel free to email city council or the city manager. And there is an ordinance. You must be registered if you're soliciting within the city of Saline. So the community development department can check and see if that is a legitimate solicitor, and if there is a problem, we can go out and ask them to stop doing so, and will reprimand them with fines should they continue to do so, not registered with the city. So please don't hesitate to contact us if this is becoming a nuisance in your neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other comments, questions, announcements? Anything? Okay. Well then, let's move on to our second public comment. Under the Open Meetings Act, any person may come forward at this time and make a comment or question to the City Council. This public comment period is limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested but not required to state their name for the record.
Hello, Mary Hess. I have 3 things that I noticed in the agenda. There's appointments to a couple commissions, but there's no information on them, whether they live in the city or the township. And I think as far as the public, I am interested. I know I'm 84 and old, and that, I'll address that on something else. But I was hoping that we would have, if nothing else, the clean side with a little information. And I have put in for an appointment for the last couple of years, and the mayor has chosen to take me off a commission and not put on a commission. The other thing is, I've lived on Canterbury in our home since 1962. And I know a lot of people as seniors, and Oak Creek is coming up with concerns. I have people calling me on Canterbury, Gary and Jim, on what's going on there. I know that the city had a public hearing months ago, and I don't think many people showed up because it's not my circus. Well, then, all of a sudden, they see things, the water and the rusty water in the streets, and the big bladders of rusty water, and all of a sudden they're calling and, Mary, what's going on? I don't know. I know that years or months ago, they had a time factor, what they were going to do, but it's not really in layman's terms. And I'm hoping, as a citizen, that the council will update either with the DPW or someone or the council as far as what's going on, that it's on. Old Creek Maple is on target, that there are no, if there's a concern, if they could address that too. For the people that live there, I do understand that it is concerning. I also was wondering, has the council voted to get rid of the local dispatchers yet? And that's another thing. But I'm hoping that I can put in for an appointment and an application and maybe be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hess. Any other public comment?
Good evening, Chengming Fan, local residents. And I want to talk something about dam research or grant. I'm fully support. And I don't know a whole lot, but I do know it's part of the scenics. And people really enjoy to visit both parks across the US 12, south side and north side. If we have the budget, if approval based on the standard of Eagle, and maybe we can consider take advantages of this and do some kind of survey the possibility to open up a tunnel, which is on the left side if I facing south, and for bicycling or for just passenger go through, and also to reduce the risk of the overflow, whatever you call that. I happened to visit the farm, the museum. I found out there was a town. Is it called some kind of German name? Barricade or kind of running water named after that, which is uptown is Saline, which is currently we are called that. And there must be some kind of value if we can open a tunnel for the sake of just in case of flood, we can go through there, enlarge the water flow downstream. Another thing is that add the value as a attraction spot. So this has come out in my mind, and then certainly Dean Gerбach did tons of work, know everything about the history, and I tried to Google it, kind of find it. But there was a town just south of the mill pond. And why they call that town, I do not know. It looked like history, started 1800, is very interesting. So that's all I want to say. And also I really want to thank for the city council, the mayor, and everybody. And Saline is such a great place. And I haven't took quite a lot of picture of the joint meeting between the city of Saline and the SAI Board of Education. And I'd like to give to you, and then it's important gathering, and there was no reporter, but I took quite a lot of picture. I think you guys did a great job. It is the historic time. We are going turning Saline to take off again with your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Please step forward.
Thank you. I'm Victoria Bigelow, and I'm one of the people who lives in the 30 homes that are being affected by the water shutoffs as a result of the East Belt Sanitary Sewer Project number 3 on Old Creek Drive, Henry Maple. And I'm requesting better communication about these water shutoffs. We were never told that there would be any water shutoffs, first of all. Some of us are working remotely from time to time, or we have children, and we're not finding out about these water shutoffs until the day before. You have a mechanism in place to communicate at the ClearGov construction project site, and you can sign up for email updates. I found out about it just by searching. Somebody is filling that out on a weekly basis, giving project updates. So, you know, I understand from my conversations with Ryan, the project manager, that there will be at least 3 total water shutoffs, one's coming in July. But there are dependencies that have to happen before the thing that requires the water shutoff happens. And it seems to me that that marker, here the water needs to be shut off, could be filled in to that ClearGov construction project site. And the dependencies could be marked off, you know, and if something happens, it rains, act of God, whatever, then, you know, that could be updated. But then we would have some idea. And also, I wish that in the beginning, apparently there was a letter that went out in April. I didn't get a copy. I would have saved it, but whatever. But that's pretty far from when the project started. You know, they came and taped things to our doors saying they were going to shut off the water. I think it would have been better if they could have taped something up or mailed something closer to the project to say, here's the website for ClearGov, whatever it is, a construction project website. You can sign up for email updates. We anticipate we're going to have to shut off your water 3 times or more, and maybe more if there's an emergency. And you can go to this site and sign up for email updates. You can check to see where we are. You can call this number, whatever, to find out. But there's no communication at all right now until the day before. And I have, like I said, talked to the project manager. I get a lot of whataboutism, and he's nice, but, you know, I'm not really getting help. I contacted Larry Searles, I think, one time, but, and, you know, he didn't really offer help. He was nice. I contacted him the second time, and he didn't respond. So I feel a little blown off about the whole thing. But I mean, especially since you already have a website in place that's regularly being updated, I'm willing to go to the website. I signed up for the email updates. If I could just get some notice so I can make other plans for you know, one time it affected a home construction project that I had planned, and I finally got the guy to come and make an appointment, and there's this notice on my door. I feel like I could have had more notice. I could have planned it for another day. Another time I had my grandson coming. I could have planned it for another day.
Thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. Just to clarify, we don't engage in back and forth during meetings, but what we can do is bring this back as an issue for a comment at our next council meeting.
Okay,
But thank you very much for coming forward with your concerns.
Thank you.
Clerk Royal, did we receive any comments to be read into the record? Thank you very much. So with that, we have quite a list of upcoming meetings. Our next, due to the 4th of July holiday, our next City Council regular meeting will be on July 10th, and then we'll meet the following week, July 17th. So we'll have back-to-back meetings in July. And then ending out July, it'll be a big meeting month. July 24th, we'll have a work meeting for the city, which the public is always invited to our meetings. It's more of an internal, but that will be held at the DPW. Also listed on the agenda are, like I mentioned earlier, all of our upcoming board, committee, and commission meetings. You can find them here, and they are always updated on the calendar online. And with that, we can look for a motion for adjournment at exactly 8 p.m.
So moved.
Moved by Gerba,
So seconded?
so seconded by Mr. Kamara-Sulak. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.